Ever park your car under a tree, then regret it? Come back to find it covered in tree sap or bird poop? Turns out that sort of thing is much worse on an alien planet. And when it's a spaceship. We couldn't get the dang door open. I stood in the cargo bay, watching Captain Sunlight supervise an attempt to unstick the big door. Blip and Blop were putting their muscles to use in shoving mightily, while the captain worked the controls and Mimi kept a careful watch out for stresses on the machinery. Mur shoved some narrow tool into the gap, muttering that the captain should let him use his tentacles. Captain Sunlight told him sternly, "Nobody parts in danger. That's what tools are for." She kept both scaly yellow hands on the controls and gave him a look. I asked, "Is there anything I can do? Help push or get another crowbar?" Blip grunted. Her frills slicked back in effort. "It's moving!" With an unpleasant sticky noise and a creak of metal, the bay door began lifting open an inch at a time. Mimi's rough voice yelled, "Stop!" The Frillian twins stopped pushing. Mimi scuttled over on quick green tentacles to figure out what part of the door had creaked. Mur shoved his prying tool in farther and managed to poke through the gooey golden stuff, just barely visible from inside. But the hard-earned gap started to close. Blip and Blop pushed again, gently, while Mur's blue-black tentacles danced in frustration. Then he lunged for the toolbox Mimi had brought, grabbing something I recognized as a hydraulic jack. He shoved it into the gap and cranked it until the door stopped closing. I said, "Nice job," kicking myself for not thinking of it first. Captain Sunlight thanked everyone for their efforts so far. Mimi reported no significant damage, at least nothing he couldn't fix later with the right tools and a bit of muscle. I got the impression that the twins were going to be roped into helping with that, which seemed only fair. Mur was busy poking at the goo, clearing away a tiny opening that looked like a promising start. I peered into the toolbox, but didn't want to get unknown nastiness on any more of Mimi's tools without permission. Footsteps in the hall turned out to be Paint, trotting in with a bottle of cleaning solution held high. Her scaly orange face was delighted. "The stuff dissolves," she announced. "Carefully finally got through to the local database. We have the right cleaner to get rid of it. We just have to spray it down. Apparently this is extra effective in direct sun." She stopped next to the captain and looked at the door, which could be tricky if we can't actually get outside. "Speak for yourself," Mur said, poking industriously with his prying tool. "Mimi, are you up for a squeeze for a tight space? If the captain allows it, of course." That part sounded a little sarcastic. I bent to get a better look. The gap was still only a couple inches wide. I remembered stories of octopus escape artists on Earth, sneaking from one aquarium tank to another through exceptionally small openings. I stood back, ready to be impressed. Captain Sunlight asked Paint, "Did Kevley say whether it's toxic at all?" "Right, yes, it's fine," Paint said. "Not an irritant to any known species, except, mentally." She grimaced. "It's sticky." Mimi tentacle walked over to join Mur. He grumbled. "I've seen worse. Let me just put the jack in place and we can get out there. We'll want that cleaner in some smaller bottles, though." "I'm on it," Paint declared, setting down the big bottle and dashing off. By the time Mimi had set up the second jack and pronounced the door safe to crawl under, Paint was back with 3 tiny spray bottles. She lost no time in filling them from the big one. I opened my mouth to offer to help, but she was on top of it. Captain Sunlight told Mimi, "I'll trust your expertise with the tools. The two of you may proceed carefully. In fact..." She pressed a button on the intercom for the cockpit. "Rio, will you join us? Kavli can handle things here and we need strong-arm capabilities." In no time, our ship's 3 tentacle aliens were all armed with tiny spray bottles and ready to squeeze through a gap that I'd be lucky to get my hand through. Blip and Blop stood at the ready in case the jacks slipped, though Mimi assured them they would not. Then, one after another, the strong arms pushed up against the gap and squished on through. It was really weird to watch. When the last tentacle disappeared outside, Captain Sunlight knelt to ask for a report on what it looked like from the other side. Mimi's gravelly voice said, "Disgusting. Good thing you didn't get the entire ship or we'd be here all day. We'll keep you posted on how fast it dissolves." They went to work, and there really wasn't much for me to do. I wouldn't fit through that hole and the goo wasn't dissolving instantly, so there promised to be something of a wait before anyone else could get outside. I thought, maybe I can find a pokey thingy that could stand to get gooey. I headed off to check the most likely storage area. Something I can wave around through the gap to help get the door open sooner. There's got to be something I can do to help out. My thoughts of spare pipes and pry bars were derailed when I got near the medical bay and heard beeping. Urgent beeping. The kind that the machinery did when there was a big problem. I ran down the hall and swung through the door of the med bay. I found Eggskin looking annoyed but not alarmed, poking at a display screen while alerts flashed. The medical table behind them was empty. Light shone on it as if a major surgery was underway. I peeked over Eggskin's shoulder to see that the screen was saying something about vital signs. I asked, "What's the problem?" Eggskin looked up, surprised to see me. The beeping was very loud. They lashed their tail in irritation and tried again to remove the alarm. That just shrank the message so it covered less of the screen. "The problem," they said over the beeps, "is that the system thinks there is a patient on the table and is distressed that it cannot detect signs of life." I winced, considering plugging my ears. "Can you just tell it the patient's dead and its job is done?" "It's not accepting commands," Eggskin said, rubbing a hand over their scaly face. "Normally, the system is much more reliable than this. I'd asked Mimi to take a look, but he's busy." "Yeah, he is," I agreed. The beeping continued. "What if you turn it off and on again?" Eggskin gave me a blank look that could have meant anything. Then they opened a side panel to reveal the power cord that connected the medical suite to the ship's power. With a yank, they unplugged it. Everything in the room, except for the ceiling lights, lost power. Eggskin waited a moment, then plugged it back in and closed the panel. Screens glowed back to life. A polite recording about reinitialization played. Minimal light shone onto the table. Nothing beeped. "Thank you," Eggskin said with a sigh. "I probably should have thought of that." "No problem," I said with a grin. "Glad I could be useful somewhere. Do you know where I can find a long stick we don't need?"